You're listening to the Bathtub Refinishing Podcast. Powered by Bathtub Guys Refinishing. We discuss the refinishing industry, interview owners and operators, and give tips to business owners and entrepreneurs. Now, here's your host, Daniel Montalvo.
All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. It's your host with the mostest. And I finally fixed my audio issues. Can you guys believe it? For those of you who don't know, if you've watched or listened to the last couple episodes, you'll probably notice that my audio was like kind of low, and like Windows does this really weird thing that when you're using a microphone, it puts like a limiter on it. I think it's just so that you don't blow out people's eardrums. But I every single time I plug it in, I don't double check that setting, and if it's on by default, like then it just hard to tell until you play it back. And so my microphone is very, very good quality. And I was wondering why it puts a noise gate on it, basically, where it like limits the ability for you to fully hear the vocal range and limits the microphone. And this microphone records at a very, very low like decibel anyway. Aside from all that though, before I get sidetracked, welcome. Wanted to get on here real quick. This is, I believe, episode 80, and it's a big milestone for the podcast, guys. I mean, it's been an interesting journey to say the least, man. I did so many episodes with my former co-host, and started it solo, did episodes to co-host. I've interviewed tons of people, and when I look at episode 80, I do want to talk about some stuff because I am planning hopefully something big for the 100th. But right now I want to talk about like the individual things that I've learned. Aside from, this isn't going to be a big Bathtub Guys commercial like the other kind of ones are. Although it's that type of stuff is just me talking about my business earnestly, like of what's going on. But I do understand, because even when I record them, sometimes it feels like all I'm doing is like talking about myself. I don't want to just be like patting myself on the back the whole time. I do want to talk about some philosophies and stuff that I've picked up over the last like couple years. This podcast, if you guys go way back, I started this in like the bedroom of a house that I was sharing with 6 other adults. For those of you who don't know, when me and my brother started the business, we had a family-owned company. It was my dad and my mom, and they never built anything super huge. That's a misconception that some people have. They think it's funny because it reminds me of like Gary Vee. Not to say I'm comparing myself to him, but similar story where it's like they handed me a company, and I will say they did hand it to us, but it was $10,000 in debt. There was no human assets, like no employees. There was no system for anything. My dad would paper invoice everything. Deals were done on handshakes. There was no deposits. There was no, even their pricing structure. They were charging like $240, $239 for a bathtub. But I will say, even with all that, I am not oblivious to the fact that I started, if everyone is starting at home plate, I started on first base, maybe halfway to second, because I didn't have to go and buy spray guns, and I didn't have to go and buy HVLPs, and my technicians didn't have to be trained from us figuring it out too. Like what I mean by that, by the way, is like, because we didn't have technicians, like what I mean by that is like my brother already knew how to do the work, right? Because he was in the business with my parents like after high school, and then like just a couple months later I joined. But the whole moral of the story is to say I did not start at zero, and I'm thankful for that. But I think one of the main things that people have a misconception of me, of Daniel, is that I don't care about the industry or people in it, and that's come like later and more recently in my business, I say career, my business experience, from a lot of people who I think are just jealous, and it's misguided, because I've had a lot of success, and I think that they see it as like, well, this guy just got handed everything. And it's like, no, I got handed some things, but one of the things about me, and the people who know it, is that I, even to my detriment, even if it hurts me and my business, I try to help people. I've helped people, and I've talked about this in the past, I've helped people in my own Orlando market who are not, who have their own business, who are competing. I've helped people in the Atlanta market who are competing. I've helped people in other places all over where it's probably not in my best interest to do so, but I want to help people. And part of the reason for that is I did not have to start at zero, and I acknowledge that. And because of that, I want to help you guys skip ahead to the good stuff too. For those of you who care to skip ahead to the good stuff. So I want to be talking about some stuff that I have learned in my time as a businessman, you know? And one of the big things, and I think overarching theme of this episode is going to be that you are your biggest, you are the biggest thing holding your business back. A lot of people, they like to blame the world for their issues. I think that it is very easy to look at the cards you're dealt and think like, you know, this is the reason I'm not successful. That's not the reason. That business deal is the reason. That guy who did the thing, or that guy who used to work for me, who's now a competitor, he's the reason why. But when you really boil everything down, a lot of it comes back to you. And I had to, it took a long time for me to accept it too, because everyone thinks highly of themselves. Everyone, you know, everyone's their own worst critic, but everyone's also everyone has a little tad of, I would say, some narcissism, right? Like we all think like, I feel like most people have a little inkling of like they know what they're doing, especially business people. I think anyone who's had moderate even success thinks that they got their own devices and all that. And I would say that's true. But I think that once you start seeing the limits of where you are, and a lot of people, they don't know how to react to change or to where they want to go, where their goals are. And so when they try something and it doesn't work, they hide back under the rock and say, it's your fault that I'm not growing, and it's your fault I'm not growing, and you're doing bad things for the industry, and you're doing this, and you're cheapening what it means to be a refinisher, and you're doing this, and you're doing that, instead of just reflecting on yourself and what you want out of business and remembering the reason that you got into business in the first place. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that. I know, long-winded, like little introduction, but I promise it'll be worth it for you guys. So one of the things I want to talk about is I'm going to go a little bit more into detail about some stuff just so that people fully understand like how I came to these conclusions. So for me, I had a very, very big roller coaster ride journey into the industry to get where I'm at like right now. And it's never fully been a smooth ride. But I'm going to touch on my relationship with my former business partner and what that did to me mentally, and how I blamed him and everybody around me at that time for my shortcomings when it really was just me. Now, I do totally believe there was some stuff that if it had been done, like, you know, it would have made things easier. But again, it just reflects on me. So again, the theme is that you are the biggest thing holding your business back. So when the goal was to bring everybody into Bathtub Guy, so start the big expansion last year that we were planning, I put somebody in place to basically run our first outside location, which is Tampa, and And they were also going to kind of take the reins of commercial work and stuff like that. The problem is, like, without going too much into what that person did or didn't do, number one, I was just straight up not even ready for this. Like, I'm just being 100% honest. And it was so easy because I was going through so much stress. Like, on the personal side, like, I had a bunch of traumatic things happen. I'm not going to get too deep into them, but like right around this time frame, I was probably not in the right mindset to take things that way. And I delegated without direction, which I learned now that you can't do, right? And while I do think that the person was more than capable of doing it, I wasn't doing him any favors either. And I 100% acknowledge that. I tried my best at the time, but I'm a human. You know what I mean? But I was not ready for this move that we were doing. Number one, there was no standard operating procedure written for what I wanted him to do or what I wanted other people to do. There was no clear path that I had thought of and drawn up to say, here's what you do Monday through Friday, 365 days a year. There was no formalization. And so for all the things that, like, I'm going to touch on different segments of where this really came to me mentally over I would say the last year or year and a half. But if I'm not doing my part, how can I expect them to do their part? At that point, you have to kind of just be humble and sit down and recognize that that whole thing did not work out because of you. I can blame him for certain things, but at the end of the day, can I really? Because if I'm supposed to be the leader and everyone's looking up at me and I'm not doing my part, how can they do theirs, right? So that is an example of me holding the business back, and we were not ready. Another time where that also happened. So that's like one of the more recent ones, but another time, and I've talked about this before, the big project that I had with Universal back in the day where I had 1,800 bathtubs. I said yes to a lot of things that I probably had no business saying yes to. Now I'm a lot more well equipped to handle bigger project scopes like that. But at the time, I was so enamored by the idea of this big thing that I just said yes, and I said I'll figure it out later. And we failed, and the company failed, and the company lost a lot of money and trust. And again, whose fault was it really? Should I have been more humble and asked for outside help? 100%. I would never say I wouldn't have taken the project. I think the real answer is I should have had outside counsel. I knew people, not enough people to like be super comfortable doing something like that, but I could have reached out, and a lot of people would have jumped at the gun of helping us do 1,800 bathtubs. It was a huge project. But I didn't. And so I was holding my business back in that instance. And on the more personal front, there was a long time where my brother wanted to be involved in the admin stuff when he freshly kind of got out of the field, and I was being a control freak. And I did not want anyone touching the sales because I thought nobody could do it as good as me. And eventually, I reluctantly let him do it when I went out on a trip. And he did such a good job that I told him, like, you could just stay doing it because, I mean, he showed that he could do it. But I was so stressed out. It was delving into my personal life of handling commercial and residential and growing and being a visionary and trying to do all these big things in my business, but having to deal with the mundane day to day. And he really wanted to help me, and I wouldn't let him for so long. And that's another instance of me holding my business back. And the reason that this is the theme is that I've been seeing like some stuff, and I really love Alex Hormozi's stuff. Like his stuff resonates with me on a level that I don't think a lot of people understand. I think it's because he's a younger entrepreneur, and a lot of younger entrepreneurs also gravitate towards him because his content is like speaks to us, right? So he's been talking about stuff like this recently, and I did some reflecting, and my first instinct was like, no, but it's like when I read like that kind of prompt where it's like, you're the thing holding your business back, and it's like, my first reaction was to kind of get a little defensive and be like, nah, like it's this, it's that. But like when I dig deeper, I realize that there's been all these pivotal points where I am the drama. You know what I mean? I am the problem. I'm the one that is actually holding it back in various ways. And so with that, now I'm in a place where I realize that in order for me to be an effective at delegation, I need to first draw out the map of what something is going to look like for someone. And for those of you out there who have done this before, it's like a no-brainer. It's obvious. Some of you who haven't done it probably think obvious, but I'm new to this. You know, I'm 27 years old. I'm turned 28 in June. This is all new to me. And I had to take a step back and realize that almost every big failure, just like every big success, because I will take credit where credit is due for me and my team and my family, right? But almost every big failure that's happened internally begins and ends with me and ultimately makes it my fault. But we learn, we grow, and we use those things as lessons to continue driving the ship, right? But I want people out there to think about this, right? Is the reason that the customer isn't calling your company because that darn Google or that darn Facebook, or is it because of you? Is it because you aren't doing the correct things to aid and help your business grow? Are you not able to sell tubs for $1,000 because, well, it's just my market. My market, people are cheap here. Or is it because you're not doing anything to demonstrate the value of why people won't pay the prices that you would like them to pay? And a little asterisk to that, have you even tried? Right? I talked to so many people. I talked to a gentleman, really nice guy from Canada. And he was like, good for you that you're charging those prices. I could never do that here. And I asked him, have you ever tried? Well, no, but I've been here for decades and I know this market and they just won't go for that. And it's like, okay, so you're saying they won't go for it and I know they won't, but I've never tried. Is the reason that they're not going for it because they won't go for it? Or is it because you never tried? Is the reason that you can't pay your guys this week, is it because customers just aren't calling? Or is it because you aren't doing enough to make customers keep on calling? These are the types of self-reflections that I think a lot of people avoid having, because again, we have that little nugget of narcissism in ourselves, and I had it too for a long time. And you got to start asking yourself these questions as a business owner, I think, are the problems in my business actually just because of my own issues and my own shortcomings? And then from there, what do we do about it, right? So I'm not trying to say, hey, you are definitely the problem. But if you are the problem, you can identify that and you can have an honest internal conversation with yourself about, damn, I could be doing more. I could be doing this. I could be doing that. Well, if you know that, but you know yourself well enough to know you're not going to do it, then at that point, you need to decide, are you going to be the guy who has a chip on their shoulder and is mad at other people's success? Or are you going to start delegating those things? Like if you really want to run Google ads, for example, and I use that because I'll tell you why in a second, but if you're not going to sit there and do what Daniel Montalvo did and learn and eat shit for 2 years, burning ad spend without being able to really, I put everything back into the business and didn't pay myself for about 2 years. If you're not going to do that and learn the platform so that you can't mess it up later, then you either are going to have outside help and be and you know, kind of be beholden to that, or you're just going to struggle, right? And like, that's an example. Like, if your goal is to get residential work, or if your goal is to just have Google Ads working, but at the end of the day, who's to blame? Is it Google for not making the platform easier, or is it you for not learning the algorithm? I'd argue now with clarity, it would be a reflection of you. Like, if you're not willing to put in the work to learn it, well, then you're never going to get it. And let me put it this way. When you learned how to refinish, a lot of you who are one-man operators, right? When you learned how to paint, how to spray, when the job got runs and boogers all over it, did you blame the customer? Did you blame your equipment? A lot of you guys got good because you made those mistakes, and you made those mistakes and learned, and now you can't unlearn it. And it's the same thing, I think, with every aspect of business. Although I think when it comes to the craftsmanship stuff and the stuff that's more tangible and in your face, like, people have that like hunger and that desire to make that end result like as perfect as possible. But I think that people, for whatever reason, they don't try as hard to implement that type of mentality into the more boring side of business in some ways, but the more exciting part in other ways. Where, like, I talk to people and they're like, I love spraying, I love this, and I love the equipment and tools, but I can't sit there and learn Google Ads. And it's like, in my head, I'm like I can understand that it's mundane and boring, but like, if somebody told you, learn this and like learn this platform that prints you money, would you not sit there and try to learn it? People have this big misconception of what it is to learn things, man. Like, why you're learning. You're not learning it so you can start a Google Ads agency. You're learning it so you have a predictable device for advertising that's going to feed you predictable leads and print money for your business. And then if your business does fail, and you knew that you should have been running ads, and you knew that you should have been door knocking hotels, and you knew you should have been doing all these things, but you weren't doing it, then who is really to blame? It's you. You're the one to blame. I've had it happen, and now I've realized that every shortcoming in my business has been because of me. So something like that, you know, those situations, I just wanted to touch on them in this podcast. I think it's very important that I hear a lot from other business owners who are struggling about, you know, I've talked about it before. I'm going to talk about it again because my heart goes out to you guys who really, like, you unfortunately cascade blame at everything, but can't look in the mirror and just say, like, it's me. I know guys, and I've seen them, who are like, this platform did this to me, and like my business listing got deleted, and that's why I don't have work. And it's like, is it though? Like, is it though? It's not. It's because of you. If it, like, you have every egg in one basket and it gets shut down, congratulations. You didn't do a good enough job as a business owner. That's the way I see it now. The other things, right? Like, that I hired that guy and he tanked my whole thing. Did he though? Like, did he tank it, or is it the fact that you weren't prepared? This one, like, literally a carbon copy of what happened to me. I blamed him for all the stuff that happened and how we almost really tanked the company. But was it really his fault? Some of it, but a lot of it was that I didn't do my job. Again, people aren't paying the prices. Really? Have you tried to charge those prices? Well, no. Are you advertising more and getting more at bats to see if people bite at those prices? No. What are you doing for advertising? Nothing. What's my business? It's all word of mouth. Okay. Yeah, and I don't have enough work to keep people around. Is it that you don't have enough work, or is it you're not working enough? It's a hard conversation to have with yourself, but I think a lot of you guys need to hear it. I think a lot of you guys need to hear it because I needed to hear it. And I would say, like, me and Patrick's business relationship from Refinished Bath Solutions has always been business first. But I will say, like, in my head, like, Patrick is always going to be in my good graces, because when I was in the bullshit of feeling bad for myself and blaming the freaking world like a little bitch a year ago, he is a true and honest friend who told me, it's you. And I proved to myself and to him that he was right. How? Because everything tangible that we see happening now with Bathtub Guys, all the new locations, all the moves that we've been making, the growth, right? This has all come about in the last 5-6 months. So a year and a half of pretty much nothing. As soon as I get out of feeling bad for myself and just hit it hard, and you guys have seen it on the Bathtub Guys page and on the podcast, being more consistent with the podcast, being more consistent with posts, doing what I'm supposed to do, what I know to do, what I've always done. And then on top of that, like, stopping whining about the one thing that didn't work and trying again and learning and taking what I learned and not doing that again, right? Or taking what I learned that did work and doing that again, and what's working here and blowing it up. All of that has led to now 11 locations outside of Orlando, and in a 5-6 month span of me putting my head down and actually working. So when it didn't work, who was to blame? Well, I was the one leading it. If I could do it with them, or if I couldn't do it with them, but I could do it without them, then who was holding back the entire thing from the beginning? It was me. So that's something that I wanted to talk about. Just philosophy on that. Again, that theme that I want you guys to think about and take away from this is that you are the biggest thing holding your business back. If you feel like your business isn't where it's supposed to be, just know there is something that you're doing that's holding it back. Technician sucks, and I can't find good technicians. Have you put together a comprehensive training program? No. Are you hiring experienced people and paying them more than everybody else? No. Why? Well, I can't charge those prices. Have you tried? No. Are you advertising enough to get enough at bats to try higher pricing? No. One thing leads to the other, but it all comes back to you. And in this case, in my business, the shortcomings always came back to me. So I just wanted to touch on that. I know we're like 27 minutes in, but have accountability for your guys' actions. If you want to grow, if you're serious about business, you need to put the narcissism and the self-aggrandizement aside and realize that you are responsible for your wins, but you're also responsible for the losses. And pointing fingers and whining about everyone else and what they're doing is never going to help you. So the next thing I wanted to touch on, and this ties in, right, is that no risk equals no reward. If I wouldn't have tried all these things, see, this is where having that self-accountability and realizing that mistakes are only mistakes really if you don't learn anything, right? So I took a big risk when I hired all these people, office staff, and I had someone else, and I kind of was trying to put together a corporate structure and seeing what that looked like. And there was a big risk, and a big risk. It almost ended up tanking everything. I'm good at holding it together, but it got like really, really weird for a minute there. And so my thing is, like, if I wouldn't have done that and I wouldn't have failed, though, even though it was my fault, right, I wouldn't have really learned, number one, that it all does fall back on me. Number two, how to avoid going through that in the future. And instead of procrastinating, which is what a lot of you do, and I've done it too, so I'm not immune from it, but a lot of you right now are saying, I got to get on that Google Ads thing. And then you get that one property manager that calls you every spring and he gets your schedule filled up, and then you just put it on the back burner again. and you ride that high, and then when it's low again, you start, oh, maybe I should do that Google Ads thing that Daniel's always talking about. It's like, if you don't ever put the risk, you'll never get the reward out of it. You're going to be stuck in that loop forever. You have to take the jump at some point as a business owner if you're serious about growing your company, if you're serious about eventually walking away and being able to retire, if you're serious about like having something that can run without you having to be there all the time. Right now, I step away from my company for a month, for 2 months, for a year, and things keep moving. Now, will the growth and expansion stuff keep moving? To a degree. Some of that stuff I need to touch on, but my base level, the thing that pays for my livelihood, which is Bathtub Guys Orlando, it'll keep on running. And why is that? Because we have systems and processes that make it so that those things, you know, keep going. But again, if I wouldn't have never ever taken the leap to try Google Ads when I couldn't afford it, make a ton of mistakes in advertising and trying to expand in people and trying people out who were cheap and people who were more expensive and trying marketing agencies. If I wouldn't have done any of that, I wouldn't have known for sure what my ceiling is, or what my ceiling is right now and where it could lead to later. And for a lot of you, and I want to circle back on this before I move on to the next thing, but for a lot of you, you guys are serial procrastinators. And I talk to some of you all the time where it's like, I'm not busy. And I see in Facebook groups posting about each other not being busy. It's slow here. Yeah, it's slow over here too. It's slow over there. Oh, let's just be the time of year. It's like, dude, like that kind of like circle jerk, like just looking for freaking yes men who are going to stroke your ego and make you think you're not doing anything wrong. It does not mean that there's not something wrong. Do you think that these big companies are also slow? Do you think that companies survive on these weird, gigantic highs and lows? They've built systems through trial and error, right? Risks to lead to that reward, to make it so that that never happens in their business. And so many people only ever try to make a change in their business when things aren't working. And that's the worst time to try something new. Because if you need every single dollar right now, but then somebody calls you and now you're riding this high and then you go on 17,000 trips and then you come back down to earth and now you can't afford to reinvest in your business and keep it growing, well, then you're just going to be stuck in that loop. I never stop running ads. I run ads in Bathtub Guys Orlando, whether I'm booked 1 week, whether I'm booked a month, whether I'm booked 3 months, I'm running ads. 24/7, I run ads. Why? Because realistically, I'm one phone call away from booking that guy, hiring that next guy, and just making more money today. The next big project, the next big connection. But how can I do that? I can do that because when I got these big swings and these big influx of projects and cash flow and money, I put it back into the business and then take it out and just start living a crazy lifestyle. You know what I mean? So that's one of the things I also wanted to talk about. Like if you're not willing to risk, if you're not willing to put up risk, don't expect a reward. Don't expect to get a big reward if you're not willing to have some balls and do something. If you're a pussy, I'm sorry, but business will chew you up and spit you out. And a lot of you, and again, I love you, but if you are like, I'm just going to say this, like, if you are still painting tubs into your 60s, there is a fucking drastic problem. There's a drastic problem going on in your life, because that not only is the health implications and all the other stuff, right? But what does that look like? You're doing manual labor into your 60s? Like and again, if you love the craft and that's all you're about, fine. But if you ever wanted to do something, the reason you got into business, the reason you got into entrepreneurship, to not have a boss and to eventually have something you can pass on to your kids or your grandkids, or it's just something to be proud of as a legacy, or build a machine that pays you even while you're not there, or even when you step away. And like that, like when you guys signed up to be entrepreneurs, you didn't sign up to be a laborer in your 60s. None of you did. You can try to justify it now, but I think a lot of it leads back to the first point, is that you are the thing holding your business back the most. And unfortunately, with men, when we get up there in age, we just start to blame the freaking world for our shortcomings. And a lot of you are professional blamers of the world on your own shortcomings. There's no accountability. There's no responsibility. You shake your freaking fist at the guy who's doing things different, better, faster, and discount everything that's not the way you do it. You fall into your old freaking habits and become a freaking hermit, and nobody likes or respects that, to be real. And a lot of you just live miserable lives, and I hate that for you. I want people to be happy. I want you to have, I want you to be able to live your golden years happy and take a couple trips and be comfortable and hang out with your grandkids or your kids and live a nice, like, end of your working life. But what I usually get personally from the older folk who are in this industry is just a ton of hate and like bitterness. And I wouldn't just say 60s. I'd say dudes in their late 40s and 50s too. Like, just straight up jealousy, dude. Like, and it makes me sad for them, because instead of taking the things that I put out there as inspiration or advice on how to better their situation, they just get upset that someone else is doing it better. And I think as a man, there is nothing more pathetic than looking at another man and saying, fuck that guy, I should be that guy. Like, I always talk about this with people who know me. It's like people who are at, but especially above where I am in business, I never envy that man. I never envy. I have a good friend, Danny Garcia. I don't envy Danny Garcia. I admire that man. I look up to him and I'm like, I want to do what he's doing. I want to learn from him. I want to gain knowledge from him. I don't look at him and say, that damn Danny Garcia, so lucky. I wish I was him. Like, no, dude, I admire what he's doing. I don't look at him with envy or hate and say, fuck, he's just doing these stupid apartments. And like, that's how he's making his money. And I do quality craftsman stuff and I'm booked out 17 months and blah, 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 blah. It means a whole lot of nothing when you're in there, bro. If you're creeping up on 50 years old and you're knees deep in bathtubs, bro, like, I'd strongly recommend either you take advice from me and other people in the industry, or you like just fuck off somewhere, because you're gonna die in the bathtub anyway, dude. Like, I don't know what to tell you guys. I love all you, and I want to see you guys do better. But like, I'm gonna be honest, like, the clock is ticking. You know what I mean? Like, if you haven't done anything yet, you still have time, but eventually you won't. You just won't. My philosophy for growth, and this is in my notes, just not being a pussy. This all goes into the same thing, right? You're the thing holding your business back. If you're not going to take a risk, there's not going to be a reward. And that just ties into it. If you're a pussy and you, like, truly, if you know that you should have been running ads for the last year and now you're staring at, mounting credit card debt and you can't pay your shop and you're having to cut guys and you still haven't done that, but every night you're turning on fucking Netflix to see the latest fucking show, like, you're a pussy. You're a pussy, and you need to you need to own up to that and either make a change or business just isn't for you. Blaming the world is easy. Looking internally and being critical of yourself is hard. But if you do it effectively and constructively, you will see the light at the end of all this. You will build something that's worth building and just kind of get all that crap out of your mind and start to make better decisions for you and your business. And the last thing I wanted to touch on is that Any market is a great market when you have a winning system. Okay. I hear a lot, and I hear a lot because a lot of people write to me and call me, and one of the things I hear a lot is that, like, well, in my market, people are still charging $200 and I have to compete. Why? Why do you have to compete? Like, do you really think that Coca-Cola is competing with Dr. Pepper? Like, do you really think? Like, yeah, everyone knows Dr. Pepper, right? But Coca-Cola is Coca-Cola. There is no competition. Their diet soda outsells them 2-1. That's not even their flagship product. I'm going to be honest. The mirage of competition is one of the biggest things that's killing a lot of you. Is this idea that because you're in a market that's the same as the other guy, that you have to be like the other guy. Don't you want to be better than the other guy? So why are you also going to charge $200? Well, because he charges $200 and the guy down the street, bro, everybody around me in Orlando charges $300 for a tub with a 5-year warranty. And we just increased pricing again. Our silver package tub is $500, no warranty. Gold package is 5-year warranty, $750. And the diamond package is $1,000. And we mostly sell gold and diamond package. Why? Because we're different. We're different. I don't want to be like the other guys. The other guys are charging $200. Good. They're putting themselves out of business as far as I'm concerned. Because me and you both know that there's no money to be made. And those same guys that tell me I have to charge $200 or $250 or $300 because everyone in my area, that's what they charge. It's like, you mean, wait. You have to charge. Well, that insinuates that it's not enough, right? When I talk to them, they're like, yeah, no, it's not enough. It should be way more. If you can't turn a profit, why are you pricing things that cheap? You need to know that your numbers are not going to be terribly different than theirs. So one of two things is really happening, is that Joe's Refinishing down the street is a one-man band who can make it work at that price. And after he gets a week or two booked, guess what? All those customers who would have hired Joe but can't because he's always too busy with cheap work need somewhere to go. And if you're just as cheap as Joe's Refinishing down the street, you're not truly capitalizing on what it means to be better. You're not truly capitalizing on that opportunity to charge more money. When people have urgency with time that you cannot get back, right? That is where paying for convenience comes in. And you, with your refinishing company, can really leverage the situation there. You know that the guy who does $200 tubs is going to get booked up really quick. And then the people who need it today, the people who need it tomorrow, the people who need it Friday, who have visitors coming over, they will pay more. But a lot of you have never tried to charge more. A lot of you will never try. Because if you don't believe that you're worth it, then you won't be. And a lot of you don't believe it. You say you do, but you don't actually believe it, because if you did, you'd go and make the change and actually try. So when I say that, by the way, that any market is a good market if you have a system, this is when I'm going to get into the patting myself on the back. We just opened our 4th location in Texas. Okay. I hear from, especially the Spanish dudes, a lot of the Spanish dudes in Texas and Houston. There's a really big one on TikTok. He's a nice guy. I've talked to him, but he tells me sometimes, like, oh, I'm going to say it in Spanish, but es muy mala la paga en Houston. La gente no quiere pagar, blah, 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 blah. Bro, we're charging like $750 to $1,000 for tubs in Houston, where all the competition is advertising like $300 tubs. We're not just doing it in Houston. We're doing it in Houston. We're doing it in Dallas. We're doing it in San Antonio. We're doing it in Austin. And I've heard so many things about how, oh, well, Texas is a tough market. I think that that is already you losing. That's you having the mentality of losing. Well, the market's tough. Business is tough. Business is tough. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Like, I don't know what some of you guys expect. I was talking to a guy on Facebook a little while ago too. It's like, oh man, San Antonio's really tough. Austin's really tough. It's like, would you want it to be easy? If it was easy, you would just have 17,000 competitors. And then what? You just want it to be freaking easy. Everyone wants everything to be easy. It becomes easy once you take accountability and start putting it together. Put it together. Come up with a plan, a strategy, advertising plan, like pricing structure, be creative. How do I differentiate myself in this market? And then it becomes easy. But like, of course it's tough. Well, kind of like that's like such pussy mentality. It's like you gave up before it even started. Well, I'd really like to grow in Texas, but it's tough. The world is tough, bro. I don't know what to tell you. And like you can see, I'm like getting upset because like that innate need that I have to like really help people. Part of it is like people genuinely, not just saying it, need to want to help themselves. And when I hear that kind of defeatist like attitude and mentality, to me, it's like, you don't really want to help yourself. Like everybody has a fucking small violin that they could fucking play and whine to themselves about their issues and what's not happening in their business and all the shortcomings. But again, at the end of the day, it begins and ends with you. And if you don't want to grow, you won't grow. And I'm going to leave it there. I appreciate you guys sitting through this podcast. I will talk to you guys soon. Take accountability. Grow the hell out of your business. Take it to the fucking moon. You only have one life, guys. You can either do it big or do it small. But I'm going to tell you, man, as somebody who's been on both extremes, I'd rather cry myself at night with all my issues, knowing that my wife and my children and my livelihood is taken care of, than adding money struggles and all that shit on top of it. So it's like they say in Wolf of Wall Street. I've been a rich man, I've been a poor man, and I choose rich every motherfucking day of the week, baby. I appreciate you guys sitting through it. I'll talk to you guys soon. If you guys have any questions for me, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out. I really do want to help people. But again, I want you guys to help yourselves. See you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Bathtub Refinishing Podcast. If you liked what you heard, be sure to keep up with the Bathtub Guys on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, or visit bathtubguys.com for more. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.